applies. And 2, only such public business matters as were identified in the motion convening the closed meeting were heard, discussed, or considered by the New Kent County School Board.
Do I hear a motion to approve the certification of the closed session?
I make a motion to approve certification of closed session.
Do I hear a second?
I second.
Vote. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
None opposed. The certification is taken. All right, now we will conduct our public meeting this evening. We would like to start, please, by if you would stand and join with me in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Again, thank you so much for attending our June session. And so we will move right along with the agenda on a public hearing of the ESSER III Return to Learn funding. Is there any public comments in regards to the ESSER III funding comments?
And Mr. Mead, while Ms. Davis grabs that clipboard, I just want to remind the public, whether you're viewing or watching this on YouTube, that ESSER plan is always on our website. So publicly available, and as we update it, it gets updated there. So not only do you have our ESSER plan, which is required, you also have our spending plan as well. So 2 links there, which you can find through board docs.
Thank you, Dr. Nichols. We had no one to comment on the ESSER III Return to Learn funding. We'll go on to our 4th item on the agenda tonight, the Senior Spotlight, and Dr. Nichols will give us an update on that.
Thank you, Mr. Mead. And it may be an actual senior spotlight. It was supposed to be seniors, but I am only seeing my good friend, Kaya Stokes here. So our mission in New Kent County Public Schools is when you walk across that graduation stage Friday at the Siegel Center, you are walking into something, not just a high school diploma, but walking into something. And we call them the 3 E's. So whether you're going to enroll post-secondary, whether you're going to enlist in the military, or you're going to go right into a place of employment. So that is what we want for every kid beyond that high school diploma. So our intent was to bring 3 seniors to you this evening. Something funny about seniors who finished their coursework a few days ago is they may not be as easy to find. So we are trying to run down the other 2, but if they're not here, I'll tell you a little bit about them. But if you only had to have 1 senior out of the entire class, I think we have the right one today. So this is Kaya Stokes. Kaya Stokes is the senior class president. She does have a big speech coming up on Friday, which I hear is amazing. And Kaya wants to tell you just a little bit about her plans for enrollment in the fall. So Kaya, the stage is yours.
Oh, okay. Good afternoon, everyone. I'm Kaya Stokes. I'll be attending Hampton University this fall. I'll be majoring in criminal justice on a pre-law track, minoring in abnormal psychology. I'm super excited, but New Kent has definitely helped shape my future. I was able to enjoy the dual enrollment in AP classes, which have helped me definitely learn better time management skills, better studying habits, so that going to college, I won't have that, that shock factor. I'm kind of used to the higher curriculum. Also, just the teachers. I built a lot of great bonds with teachers, and Dr. Nichols, that's my homie. So we have a very good relationship, but definitely allowed me to get more involved in my community. One thing about New Kent is they're very adamant on outreach in the community. So I've had an amazing time this year, especially as class president, organizing different events and just finding different ways to tap in with the community, to build service hours, just so I can have those things under my belt. So New Kent has definitely helped me in a tremendous way, and I know that my future would not be as bright as it is if I had not attended New Kent Public Schools.
You can see why Kaya is the class president, and we'll have no problem at the Siegel Center. So Kaya, thank you very much. Kaya's family is here with us tonight. We can't do this without family, correct? So we have two young men that were going to join us tonight too. I believe both have work obligations. So Connor Golland is graduating on Friday. He's going to enlist in the armed forces. So we have quite a number of students doing that. We're very excited about our Corps of Cadets program coming online next year and really building a pathway for kids to do that enlistment piece. And then none other than Austin Brown is representing the employment piece. Austin is a small engine student at Bridging Communities. Austin is actually going to be competing for a national title in small engines. He's going to Georgia, I believe. So he has a bright future in the small engine diesel world. So we have a lawyer, we have somebody to work on engines, and we have Connor as well. So that's 3 of over 200 fantastic seniors, which board members will get to see on Friday night. So when I say I have the best job in the world, it's because I get to work with awesome kids and tremendous staff members. So just wanted to highlight that for you guys this evening.
Thank you so much, Dr. Nichols, and thank you, Ms. Stokes, and your family for all of your support and your time here at New Kent Public Schools. And it is just a joy. I know as a board, we would all agree is that when we have young people like yourself that represent our community in more ways than one, it is a beacon of light within everything that we do. So we wish you the best at Hampton University. And again, if you run into any issues at Hampton University, I will give you Dr. Nichols' cell phone. But again, we appreciate your effort and all the efforts of this upcoming senior class as they walk across the stage on Friday evening. We'll move on to our 5th item on our agenda, which is our consent agenda. Is that board members, by now you have had the opportunity to review the items listed on the consent agenda, including the minutes from the previous meeting, bills and payroll, monthly financials, and the superintendent's recommendation regarding personnel and student matters. Do I hear a motion to approve the consent agenda as presented?
I move we approve the consent agenda as presented.
Is there a second?
A second.
Vote. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
No noes. The consent agenda is approved. The next item on our agenda is new business, and it's that wonderful time of year that we love to hear this presentation. We have been waiting patiently for the entire year for you to explain to us how we're going to save $200,000 this year in healthcare premiums. Mr. Davis is going to present our presentation this evening about our healthcare premiums.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, school board members, Dr. Nichols. Sorry to disappoint, but we're not going to say
It's not 200?
It's not 200. Move that back.
This presentation is currently over. Number 7 on the agenda.
So what we're budgeting for is a 20% increase based upon claims experience, which I'll get into in a minute. And that's really higher than what the numbers show, but just to make sure when we get the final numbers for reinsurance that we have an adequate amount budgeted. The second thing that's of note on the medical insurance is that we're going to set it up as a short plan year to renew July 1st of next year instead of October to October. And I'll explain why that is in a few minutes. The dental insurance is calling for a slight decrease, 4%. It's about $9,000. You'll see a benefit option that will keep that at 0, that will enhance the benefits for the dental. The vision, we don't have that renewal yet from United, but we're going to recommend consolidating carriers on a couple fronts, and we're going to recommend moving the vision plan to actually Anthem. The final piece on this page is we're also going to recommend what we call consumer benefits, which is accident and critical illness, moving that to Standard, who handles the long-term disability for you guys, as a way to consolidate insurance carriers, just from an administrative perspective. It actually is a little bit cheaper for the employees and a little bit better benefit. On the next slide, it shows you claims through April. We're currently running about a $236,000 deficit. Medical claims are up about 35%. That's really due to a few large claimants. And then pharmacy costs are actually down a little bit, about 6.5%, which is good. Flipping to the next page, it's not all bad news. So if you look at the bottom numbers on this page, the total cost per employee per month, $1,284 compared to, and that's the prior period, to a current period of $1,435. That's an 11% increase in per employee per month cost, which is much better than it was 2 months before that. It's actually, the claims experience is showing signs, knock on wood, of slowly getting better. And there's some things on the horizon that we think that will improve it over time. But we feel like we're on the tail end of about 2 years of really tough claims experience. So we recommend funding at the 20% increase for this year, taking the short plan year. That is about $1 million, but we are looking at some things to mitigate even that for this year. On the next slide, we looked at the dental and vision benefits. We're enhancing the medical benefit to the dental benefit on the high option plan, the Premier Plus, to a $1,500 benefit, and keeping those costs at zero, changing the vision over to Anthem, which will be the same price it is today. So no cost increase on either of those benefits. So the recommendations for the medical, I'm going to just highlight a couple of these, is continue with the current benefits plan for FY24, create a short plan year that will end in July of 2024, market the reinsurance, and also look at potentially reducing some of the fixed costs and remove an additional exposure if we were to have a laser on a high claimant. What that means is that it creates more risk for the schools, and we're trying to avoid that. Continue to promote health and wellness advocacies through incentivizing employees to get their physicals and age-appropriate lab work done. Renew with Delta Dental at zero increase the maximum benefit to $1,500, move to Anthem on the vision at 0% increase, and change the accident and critical illness over to the standard. Also educate the employees on move to Medicare as the options and the benefits available and the cost under Medicare. We have found there is a lot of confusion with what Medicare represents to people who are eligible for it, and the cost can actually be less and the benefits can actually be more than they can get through their group plan. So it's important that they understand what the benefits of those are. So that's the recommendations piece. They told me to keep it short.
So are you saying is that from an HR perspective, we should pursue employees who are 65 and are eligible to make sure that they know that they're eligible?
The move to Medicare is something that Anthem provides at no cost. They'll actually communicate to your employees. Just offering the program to make it available to them is really what you want to do.
So the employees necessarily don't need to do anything, that Anthem will contact them directly?
We'll set up a communications campaign to reach out. They're not going to call them directly, but they'll be given a path to actually get more information if they like it. So.
And board members, we'll come back before you, likely at our July meeting, with actual rates. Hopefully by that time we'll have a state budget as well. So if we don't have it by the end of July, we're really in trouble. So this is just kind of where we are in the recommendations. And I just want to thank Matt and his team for the countless hours that we've met and all the hours that they have to get ready for us. And Haney and Allison and all of their teams trying to come together. And we've also began talking to the county about a possible partnership, but that may be a couple years down the road, but we're always exploring ways to offer better services.
Can I just add two things? First of all, we do have reinsurance bids back that are lower than what your renewal is. They're just waiting on claims experience through the end of June to be able to do that, so July is perfect. And then as far as the county, we're going to continue discussions with that and ideally go to market later this year and see what the market will bear in terms of joining together without injuring or taking away from any group of employees. We're going to do it where everybody wins. So
That would be because, based on what, if I heard you correctly, by doing the re-up to July, there may be an opportunity that we could completely change the policy next July. Is that correct?
correct.
Okay.
Yep.
And Matt came before the Board of Supervisors at their last work session and presented that to them as well. So continuing discussions, no decisions, you will definitely be a part of it. Just exploring all those options.
Exactly.
Any other questions, board? All right. Thank you, Mr. Davis. Appreciate all your
Thank
effort
you.
and your help, and come back with some money savings next time. Good grief. Either that or come back with dinner, one or the other. Under new business, we're going to talk, Dr. Nichols is going to present the appointment of a fiscal agent in that category there.
Thank you, Mr. Mead. It is our annual appointment of fiscal agent, so I put before you to continue having Haney Morgheim be the agent and myself as the deputy agent. That does come before you for a vote. It's a continuation and an annual thing that we have to do. So be happy to answer any questions regarding it, but I think Haney's a great choice.
All right, any questions? If not, we'll move on to item C, New Kent Elementary A&E contract. Ms. Morheim?
Is this on? Yep. Good evening, Mr. Chairman, members of the board, Dr. Nichols. Tonight I'm bringing a recommendation on the New Kent Elementary School architectural and engineering contract. We issued an RFP in February and have gone through the process of negotiating and would like to ask you to award Mosley Architects a contract in the amount of $114,716 for the first phase of this project. Additionally, with this, because we only had $75,000 budgeted in this line item, we're asking for a CIP transfer of $39,716 to complete this first phase of this project. Really like a general fact-finding, design, lots of meetings involved with staff, safety, security, really everybody in the county is kind of on board to look at what really we need at New Kent Elementary School. What's the best next step, whether it's a major renovation of that school building or something different. What does that look like? How long will that take? All of those types of fact-finding things. So very exciting. We're excited about it. We think Mosley will be a great partner. We look forward to moving this project forward. I'll take any questions you all may have.
I have a couple of questions.
Okay.
First one, how many RFPs were received?
We did receive 8. There was one that after the fact kind of had called and said that they respectfully asked that we remove their bid from the package. So technically we reviewed 7. And they're all very good.
Yeah. And then what is the timeline for phase 1? How long would the work?
So part of phase 1 is coming up with the timeline. So as far as, from my perspective, Ms. Winford, what I would think is that over the summer we begin the work of pulling together 12-month employees that are here and planning various committees regarding the project. And I would like to see a couple of summer meetings where we can bring staff in who are interested in being a part of this, just to keep the project moving forward. And I think that's totally doable. So I think our hope would be by the end of the year that we really have something a little concrete with regard to cost estimates and maybe even just a better idea of what actually we want to do for this project.
How old is New Kent Elementary in terms of when it was built?
It's about 50 years old.
Okay.
It was built in 1973. So, yeah, 50 years old.
So you're saying it's old?
I'm saying it's 50
Tread
years
lightly
old.
there, Morgheim. Tread
I
lightly.
said it was 50 years old. I did not say it was.
You're 50 years old.
In typical lifespan of a building, that is a
It's beyond its useful life.
There you go.
for buildings.
And
There
I
you
think
go.
a lot of our mechanical systems are probably
End of life, not able
End
to
of
get
life,
parts,
yes.
not nearly as efficient as they could be. And the other thing to keep in mind with New Kent Elementary was initially built as an open concept school, which you would no longer build in 2023. So we've been doing a lot of retrofitting around to make it safer, more secure, even the areas for learning, making it more conducive to learning. So those are some of the challenges that we have with the school. Been several additions off of different sides, and there's a hallway to nowhere. Just quite a few challenges related to New Kent Elementary. So we're excited to have some expert eyes on it and look at it, and also time it with project that the county is currently working on, which involves moving of our maintenance shop, tearing out of those tennis courts that we all do not want to see anymore, and look at better parking. And so it fits into a potentially a larger redesign of 295.
So the next step is to finalize the contract with the proposer.
Yes, and we obviously we just want to make sure all the language in the agreement is good. We feel like we're in a good place. I think we should be able to have that complete by the end of this week. With your approval this evening, we look to go ahead and jumpstart and move forward with this project.
Great.
And kind of in the next item with the CIP transfer, again, this is a transfer request for the difference in the $39,716 to get us to the total. And really what I did go back in 2019, we had received an estimate, a proposal of what this type of a phased approach might cost for phase one. And there are a couple additional items in this phase one than what was in our original cost estimate. One of those things is civil engineering. There's a traffic observation where they're going to come and really watch the traffic flow coming in and out of the school, which I think will be super beneficial. And there's also a water system hydraulic analysis as well. Ms. Barber, you probably know what all these things mean, and I'm just letting you know that I feel good about what's now included in this total, that we really do want to add that additional funding to complete those items.
So the other thing we should do that they're probably not doing is a hazardous material survey.
Okay.
I'm sure that we have records of what's in the building, but also what's buried underground around the building.
And I did talk to Mr. Pollock about that, and he believed that in our last renovation that if there were any things, that those were kind of taken care of at that time.
Any other questions? No, thank you, Ms.
Okay, thank you.
So our next item is the federal programs application under Essential Goals 3, obtain and align resources. Mr. Miller?
Good evening, Mr. Mead, Dr. Nichols, members of the board. Sorry, a little hot mic there. Tonight, come for you with 4 of our federal grants. This is that time of year, and we have to get them approved so that we can get them submitted by July 1. And the ones for tonight are titles 1 through 4. Is there a slideshow in there? Yes, thank you. That's it. There we go. All right. So just want to run through real quick because this is up for vote tonight. I just want to go through each one individually just to give you an idea of what's in each one. So the first one is Title I. This is a federal program to support disadvantaged students. And so even though the funds go towards just any students that we identify are in need, our funding amount is based on our amount of free and reduced lunch in the division. So some of the uses that we use these funds for is approximately $290,000 that we receive each year. So we have several reading specialists that we provide in each of our elementary schools who provide intervention for students, as well as professional development for teachers. And then we do purchase instructional materials for those buildings, and then also we do use those funds to provide materials for homeless populations, and we can use those funds for transportation of homeless as well. So Title II is for high-quality principals and teachers, and so some of the things that we use those funds for, it's about $60,000, is professional development offerings, materials for professional development, and then some membership into some state organizations that help provide professional development resources for us. So just this one, VASCL, which is a statewide conglomeration of districts who come together and work together on professional development. Then this year, we're expanding our teacher residency program through work with Ms. Anderson. She's done a great job there of setting that up. And so that is, we're bringing in teachers who are still working on licensure, and they'll be working alongside our teachers. And so that gets us ahead of the game a year down the road during recruitment. And it's a great opportunity for that, to get them in and learn New Kent's way. We use these funds to also support our mentor teachers. Every new teacher in the division receives a mentor teacher who works alongside them for the first year, meets with them regularly, and just provides them guidance as a veteran teacher, and so they get a stipend out of this as well. And then this is one of our 2 grants that one of our private schools, our only private school here in the division, does participate in.
Ross, I just want to jump in on teacher residency.
Yeah.
So we're growing teacher residency. This year we have 1 teacher in residence, and she will be teaching special education for us next school year. We're growing that to 7 out of the College of William & Mary. So 5 secondary school residents, 2 English, 2 social studies, 1 science, and then 2 elementary school residents. So that is 7 teachers for the following year that we will already have, pending successful completion, but utilizing Title II and also utilizing ESSER to make that happen. It's just another way that our team's working together to get ahead.
Mm-hmm. Thank you.
Sorry, Ms. Miller.
No, that's great.
You know I have to jump in at some point.
If you can jump back one, Mr. Terry. So then Title III, this is for supporting English learners and immigrant students. And we use these funds for instructional materials, conferences, as well as some progress monitoring assessments so that we can see how their language development is coming along throughout the year. For this grant, we receive approximately $2,500 to $30,000. We do have 35 English learners in the division. So. Then Title IV is a student support and academic enrichment grant. So this is funds that we can use to expand learning opportunities for students beyond typical courseware. And so we use these to basically track our students' college and career life readiness, for them to do their academic career plans that they develop starting in middle school and work on through high school. And then we also provide conferences for teachers. We have a welding class that we work with King William to provide to high school students, and so they can get their welding certification, and we fund that through this grant. Then we also use it to expand our STEM materials in all the schools. And again, this is the other grant that we have a private school that participates in. All the grants we worked in collaboration with the schools, and Ms. Gum out of my office helped put it all together and did a great job in piecing all 4 of these grants together. So happy to answer any questions you have about them, but this is up for approval this evening.
Now, are these yearly renewable grants?
Yeah. Every year they come for you at this time of year, and so.
Thank you for putting the highlights in the slide presentation. That helps a lot understand how each of them are being utilized.
You're welcome.
Any other questions? Thank you, Mr. Miller.
Thank you.
Our next one is item F, Code of Conduct Review, first read under Essential Goals, provide for and monitor the development of academic, organizational behavior, and social competencies to ensure individual student success. Mr. Cochran.
Mr. Chairman, members of the board, Dr. Nichols, good evening. This evening, I'm going to review with you the Code of Conduct. All right, this is related to our strategic plan, goal number 2. Essentially, our process this year, we formed a Student Code of Conduct Committee. We met twice on May 4th and May 17th, and the committee included 1 parent, 1 teacher, and 1 administrator from each of our 5 schools. So we had a very robust group. Format, we essentially were looking at the 5 sections for behavior violations that the state requires us to report on. They are labeled A through E. as we went through this, it's important to notice, you'll see on there it says SBAR A, that would be the first one that the state has, Section A, and category of behaviors. All of the category of behaviors are created by the state. We are not allowed to adjust those. That is to create consistency in the state reporting. So what we were really looking at would be levels related to an offense. So we didn't have any changes in this area, but let's say we had something that we thought was too light or too heavy, we could adjust the accountability for that student. So that's sort of what this committee was looking at. So the 5 levels, level 1 would be the least amount of a discipline for a student, 5 being the most severe. And the other thing we also looked at was reporting for SROs. So we had the ability to add that as it is related to state code. So that's what our committee looked at. For SBAR A, Section A, there were no recommended changes by the committee. If you go on to Section B, the same thing, no changes were recommended by the committee. We went to Section C, which is relationship behaviors, which create a negative relationship between 2 or more members of the school. We had some changes. You will see where the big red X is. Those are recommended additions that the committee made. For RB1, bullying with no physical injury, they recommended that we add a level 3 and a level 4. Cyberbullying, they recommended that we go to a level 4 for a range of, or an increased range. RB3, posting, displaying, or sharing of material or literature that is libelous, they wanted to increase the range also to include a 4. Using slurs based upon the actual perceived race, ethnicity, color, national origin, they increased the range to potentially a level 4. Unwanted or inappropriate physical contact, increasing that also to a range within a level 4.
Mr. Hockman, real quick.
Yes, sir.
And I'm trying to pull it up while you're talking. So a level 3.
Level 3 essentially would be numerous things, 1 to 5 day suspension.
And then level 4
would be 6 to 10. A level 5 would be considered a long-term suspension. In your packet, if you go right past this, I've included all of those ranges for you. I know this is a first read, so I did want to include that.
So similar to, we came before you last year to make a mid-school year change to vaping because we wanted more authority to take stronger action. I think one of the themes you'll see the committee's recommending is on some of these things, we want the ability to take a stronger action. So that's where you see the 4 or 5. Doesn't mean we'll take a 4 or 5. It may still, if it's a kindergarten kid and it's the first time, it could be a 1 versus a junior who's had, 7 different incidents related to it.
Why wouldn't we have all of those boxes checked? So that if it was, why would we eliminate 5?
And to be honest with you, you could do that and go through, but the truth is you want to have the ability to do a response which is consistent. If a child comes up in front of an administrator or any administrator in a building, based upon the circumstances of what had happened with that child and their history, you would want to have consistency in what is given to that child. In going through and dealing with the parents and the teachers and also really importantly the administrators, we tried to include anything that we thought would practically come up with that offense. If there's not a 5 included, the committee really felt as if it would not be necessary with that offense to go to that range.
So I'm just going to challenge that a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
So let's say cyberbullying. You've got somebody that does it once, they get the level 2, whatever consequence. They do it again, they get the level 3. They do it again, they get the level 4, and then that's it. We can't do level 5, which is.
A couple things. One, we don't necessarily go in that order. So that it doesn't mean the first time it happens you go to the lowest number. There's a range there. So for any offense, if there's a range of multiple outcomes, you don't necessarily start at the lowest depending on the situation. With the bullying piece, there is a way to increase the discipline for that child based upon the offenses. And I'd have to look it up and do a little homework for you on that. But as that increases, we can come under a different code for that and potentially increase what the consequence is.
There's something around repeated behaviors
Correct.
Connected to that allows you to escalate. And there's also a combination of RB2 and RB3, or you can put some of these together that gives you more leverage.
The other thing we did is we looked at code of conducts for local school divisions. And what we found is that some of those had a greater range And what we found now is that we more closely resemble some of the other school divisions around us. The administrators that participated with this committee, they looked at this from a different lens, obviously, and felt like this allowed us to be where we needed to be. It doesn't mean it's perfect, and I agree with you. If something continues and something is egregious, then we need to deal with that. But I think there's a way through the code of conduct to address those when they get to that point.
The downside of a greater range also, you bring up lack of consistency and consequences. So our role this summer and fall and moving forward is you may have these 5 categories. How do you choose what the punishment is to make sure that it is consistent across a middle school, for example, or across a high school, and somewhat similar between the 8th grader and the 9th grader. So we have that transition piece. So that's probably our greatest challenge and always will be, but it's not a point of emphasis with our development work this summer.
Yeah.
But is it not true, though, and I guess I'll piggyback on both of those comments. In a way, the reason why you have these categories or levels is because it really depends on the student and the situation.
Mm-hmm.
It's just, so it's going to be next near to impossible to be consistent continually because every time you have a different student and you have with a different history and a different background and a different situation or circumstance that could lend to that. And so just my observation is, to me, it would make more sense is that as long as there's a consensus that, for lack of a better example, as long as the punishment fits the crime is more important than being consistent about the incident itself. Because I'll go back to your example of cyberbullying. Well, that's a pretty daggone objective thing, because I could say that you're cyberbullying me, and you could say, well, I know you were joking. And so how do you that's where, to me, where the rub occurs, and I think we've seen that big picture, is that Andrew's definition of it could be much more different than what my definition of it, and then now we have to have this meeting of, based on the standards, whose standard are we going to use? So we're going to use the schools, we're using the states, we're going to use. So how do we navigate this where you really feel like that the punishment does fit, or the discipline fits the incident in every situation, because every situation is different.
And I think when you talk about consistency, I think it's about being, if you were all administrators at the high school and I got in trouble, no matter what I got in trouble for, I would hope that if I went to all of you, I'd probably have the same consequence. Knowing what my history is, what I've done at school, if this is a repeat offense, the consistency comes in dealing with each situation the same. What you'll have to always take into consideration, obviously, is the child. So if this child has no offenses in their past, if it's a first-time offense, if it's not something that created harm or a major disruption, those are things that an administrator would take into consideration. It's a very difficult piece to look at, which is why we also have an appeal process. So when an administrator gives a decision, if a parent or the student feels that it's unfair, they have the ability to appeal that through the building principal. If they don't feel as if that outcome was fair as well, then we have the ability to push that through the central office as well to have a review of that. We don't get a lot of those, to be honest with you, which makes me feel good, because I think that parents recognize that we're trying to be fair, we're trying to be consistent. Many of our parents sometimes feel like we were a little light on things. I think that our administrators do a good job, for the most part, of falling within what I think would be the appropriate range. On here, there's no perfect answer. If we only gave one box for something, then we would be greatly limiting our ability to take into account unique circumstances for a child that's had no offenses, or it was really just an interesting case that didn't turn out well. So the range allows for flexibility. It allows for the administrator to take into account common sense and what makes sense with any offense. I think it's kind of a tough thing to go and say too much is too much, or having one is too little. It's somewhere in the middle. You have to have a range, I think, for these people who are trained. They've been through school. They understand the goal of the school principal who sets forth the tone in that building and what they want to see happen with discipline. It allows them to hopefully fall at an acceptable response to what that behavior was.
I mean, I agree with you. I think you said it well when you said is that it's more about the administrators in every school being on. It's all the elementary school principals are sitting in a room and saying, we need to make sure we're on the same page here, because I don't need to get back that I'm the bad guy here and you're the light person.
Well, you can rest assured students know that there's certain administrators at times they don't want to see. Well, there's certain that are really strict with dress code.
That's not a new facet. I knew who I wanted to go to in high school. So, I mean, it just.
And one of the things we've talked about, because there's a little data as we move forward, it's called looking at the wheel. And what we would want to do is look at administrators at a building, one building, a middle school, a high school, and elementary is a little different, but at schools where there's multiple administrators that are giving out discipline, we'd look at that building, look at common offenses, and see if there's any drastic differences in what consequences they assign to students. If those things are out there, maybe there's a reason for that, but if there's not, we need to be making sure that we are giving out consequences that are consistent across the board. So that's one of the things that's on our summer list.
Good job. I agree.
Thank you. All right. On to D, drugs and paraphernalia. We increased the range to include 4 and also an SRO contact. Tobacco using products, we include, and vaping devices in particular to include an SRO contact. BSC 9 and 10 are related to transportation, distracting the bus driver and then endangering the safety of others on the bus. We increased those to include a range up to 3. And as you will recall, 3 includes a discipline that can include up to a 1 to 5 day suspension. On to our next page. Throwing.
To your earlier point, we will look at those ranges and see if does it need to be a 5? Is there a situation where there could be a 5? So that's why we're doing first read, second read. So when we come to you in July, we may go, okay, we've tweaked this up, this one down, these different pieces.
Certainly.
So.
Yep. That's why we review. I don't know that we had this many changes last year, and the administrators and parents alike felt like that we needed to increase the opportunities for the administrators to do some things with more range. Here, same thing, throwing objects increased to a range 3, shoving, pushing, or striking increased to a range 3. Physical contact of a sexual nature, patting body parts, pinching, tugging, clothing, increased to a range of 4. Stalking, as described by the Code of Virginia, up to a range of 5. Stealing money or property using physical force but without a weapon to a range of 5. And I need to add to you, most of these things don't happen. But in looking at them and looking at other school divisions, we wanted to make sure that we were prepared in case something did happen, and that if we didn't want to have to code something as it was not intended, so that we could get the consequence that we liked. Behaviors that endanger self or others. The use of force against a staff member, we increased that to include, I'm on the wrong one. All right, go back to trespassing, up to a range 3. You can go back, Sean, please. There you go, bud, right there. Possessing dangerous instruments, contact with the SRO. Weapons, possessing any weapon other than a firearm, that included an SRO contact. Striking staff, that included an SRO contact. Drugs, possessing controlled substances, that included an SRO contact. Attempting to set fire, aiding in setting or setting a fire, that up to a range of 5. Gang-related activity, range of 5, and an SRO contact. Obviously, with that being one of the things we are not dealing with right now, but we felt as if we needed to adjust that. Hazing, up to a range of 4 or 5. Threatening or instigating violence, injury, or harm to a staff member, to include a range of 5. Threatening or instigating violence, injury, or harm to another, including a range of 4 or 5. And possessing of a firearm or destructive device, that is up to an SRO contact. So that is all of the adjustments that we had included. There also is, following that, a definition of all of our levels, which we will not go through. There were a couple of other small changes that we wanted to have. right here. We no longer have the RISE program, so we changed that to reflect we are using impact as our alternative setting. On the next one, this is for discipline with pre-K through 3. We wanted to make sure that it said 3 consecutive days. That's the practice that the schools have been doing, so we wanted to reflect what the schools are actually doing at the elementary level. And then last year, as you are aware, we made some changes with the code of conduct, particularly in the area of cell phones, vaping, and dress code. I have some raw data. This data at times was difficult to pull. Sometimes things are coded not necessarily in a way that makes it easy to pull. For instance, a dress code violation could be potentially coded failure to comply. So we had to do a little background checking. Well, that is one of the things that we plan on cleaning up through the summers, a consistency in how things are coded to make the availability of this data a little bit easier to pull out. This is for the middle school. The 21-22 school year, you can see that there were 42 dress code violations down to 22 for this year. Tobacco used, including vaping, last year, 25, this year, 24. And then a violation of the portable communication device policy, last year, 11, this year, 4. Then on to the high school data. Dress code, 8 to 2. Tobacco use, including vaping, 60 to 47. And then a violation of the communication device, 43 to 19. So it looks like a little bit of a dip in numbers in some of those. So that's good. That was one of the purposes of some of the changes. I think it's been very clear. I think the students are very aware of what the consequences will be, and I think that probably leads to some of the reduction in the offenses that we see there.
To Mr. Hockman's point, I do think we need to clean up some of the coding. Vaping is vaping. That one's a pretty clear code. But the cell phone could easily be failure to comply. The dress code could easily be failure to comply. So part of our point of emphasis with administrators, specifically in the secondary school, is if it's related to dress code, coded as dress code, have a secondary be failure to comply. But we need the primary, and the same thing with portable communication device. I'm not naive to think we only had 19 cases where
it was
a kid
a
had
banner
a cell phone
year
issue.
Yeah.
It really comes down to the coding and the connection to it. So
I would also say, and I think we would all agree as a board, when you talk about communication devices, that's actually, my gut feeling is, that's a multiple offense type of thing, because it depends on what they're using that communication device for. You know, are they using it to access things that they shouldn't access? So then what happens at that point? Are they banned from bringing the device to school? So how does the next level occur based on whatever that violation is?
Yeah.
Is it more than just talking on the phone?
Yeah.
So I think that for maybe some clarity it depends on what it's used for, because I don't know do we have a built-in policy that says if you violate this policy, one of the consequences is to be banned from having a communication device on campus?
In the code of conduct, which I do not have in front of me, there is specifically a cell phone it spells it out for you.
I knew it was something in there.
Yeah.
Based on the referral piece.
The difficult piece, as I said earlier, we really cannot change the behavior piece that the state sets forth. I think the path to making that really work would be what Dr. Nichols mentioned. If a student brought a cell phone into class and was cheating, the grander of the two would be cheating, and you could see where an administrator potentially only would list that as cheating, where the truth is we would need to say cheating and then also the communication device issue. That way we could track what was really going on. So I think that's sort of the consistency and training we have to provide.
As I was listening to you talk, I was thinking about a couple of months back, we had a few student speakers, and I think this is kind of a good thing that those student speakers will be happy about too. Some of those inconsistencies and up and down.
Well,
so thank you.
Some of those students were on our committee.
Oh, were they
So
good? I'm so glad to hear that.
That was purposeful.
No, that's wonderful. That's great.
Well, we knew that those were students that were interested in this, and they, as older students, I think they understood what goes on. We felt it was important to have their voice on the committee, so we got them on there.
Thank you.
Yep. I know it's a first read and it's a lot.
That's good, though. Thank you for the information. I think that's very helpful for
Yep.
everyone.
And board members, if you have anything in between now and the second read, we'll do our work based on these questions, but feel free to reach out and additional questions related to it.
Good.
Good. Thank you.
Next item on our agenda this evening is the school security equipment grant and CIP transfer under Goal 3. Ms. Warheim?
Yes, Mr. Mead, board members, Dr. Nichols. This is a request for appropriation of a school security grant that we received. We did request additional funding, but we were awarded $47,422. There is a match for that, and typically what we do is ask you to transfer that from our CIP reserve, and that's $11,855.50. This particular grant was awarded for New Kent Middle School, the vestibule, the security door hardware, which we've done a lot of work on. So that's what our request is this evening.
Okay, thank you very much. Now the athletic transfer.
Yep, and so with athletics, we have 3 items on this transfer that we're requesting this evening. One, if you remember, back in February, we came to you for additional funding to support officials. That hasn't continued to increase. Our goal moving forward next year is to start building a little bit more of that in our general operating budget instead of relying on just on our activity fund to cover those expenses. So you all did approve in the adopted budget $10,000 for athletics specifically for that purpose. I think we will work over the years to try to increase that a little bit as we're able to. But I am asking tonight for $10,000 additional dollars for that purpose. Also $5,508.45 to repair one of the gators that we have at the high school. And then additionally for athletics, $27,400 to refinish the basketball court at the high school.
And those are based on actual quotes for the work.
Those are, I know Dr. Nichols and Mr. Pollock have been working on the court, and that is, I believe that is going to be, we are still securing a few more quotes, but we feel confident in that price on that, Ms. Barber. And with the Gator as well, I think there will be a need that will be coming back to you most likely to get an additional vehicle for athletics. But for right now, we're just asking for that repair on the one that we have. I will say, I know you've seen a lot probably in the community and talking about our new athletic booster club. So I do think that also will help to support athletics. And moving forward, we are working very closely with our high school bookkeeper and Mr. Spiak on just their budget and kind of what we can do to ensure that we have a part in that on the general operating side and that the balance of those projects are funded through the activity account.
Thank you, Ms. Moran, for that information. Our next item on the agenda here is our freshman seminar course request under Essential Goals 1. Mr. Miller?
Yes, good evening again. Each year when we have a new course that we would like to offer, we bring it forward for approval. And so this is a course that we've been working on with the high school as a freshman orientation course to help freshmen with the transition from middle school over to high school. And so this would be to provide a 1-credit elective that would prepare them for that shift. What are the differences between middle school and high school? How are we preparing you for college? And just all the college and career planning as well get wrapped into that as well. So I would like that. If you have any questions on it, happy to answer them, but otherwise that's up for approval as well.
How will the course be organized? Will it be distinct segments that handle topics?
Yeah, so they'll have a variety of topics like that start with basic school culture and what does it mean to be New Kent Strong and welcome to New Kent High School, and working up through things like they'll sort of end towards college career planning and making sure that for the next 3.5 years that they have a course schedule or planned out for them, but they'll work up to that and be going over all the requirements. They'll go over code of conduct differences between middle school and high school. They'll sort of front load some of that, but it's intended to be a first semester course, and so students, freshmen would hit it first semester, really prepare them. There will be some academic pieces where they'll go over research skills, so that students understand how to research information and how to put that into reports for each of the 4 core areas, and do so without plagiarizing. So.
So
Or
Mis-
using ChatGPT.
Or using AIs.
Yeah.
Yes.
So, Mr. Miller, you say that this course will be scheduled if there is sufficient funding, staffing, and enrollment. Can you define what is sufficient for those three?
Sure. Well, right now there's minimal curricular costs because we're developing it here locally, and we are going to purchase a couple of units that we found some other schools use for this type of course. And then staffing wise, we should be fine there. We've isolated a couple staff members who are working on that curriculum piece, and enrollment. We're hoping to grow this to where every freshman would go through this process, and so that to help with that transition. But we've worked with the middle school on selecting students that would definitely benefit this year, being a part of pilot. So
And we just run into freshmen second semester every year that are like, oh, that hit me like a train.
yeah,
So it's like, how can we take that and do that on the front end? So
I think there's value in all of the ninth graders going through the course and really establishing a baseline.
It's almost like it should be
everybody's on equal
mandatory.
ground.
Because I believe when we were in college, like you had to take, like it's a 1 credit course now when you
Yep.
go to enter college about intro to like,
College.
yeah, life.
well, and that's sort of the idea. Like, how do you study? How do you research? How do you acclimate? How do you get involved? Like all of those pieces. So, we want to test it in a pilot format, but you really could see it being a first semester course for freshmen. There's some scheduling issues to deal with that, but yeah. So we'll have a nice sample size, and we'll bring updates back to you if approved.
definitely.
Yeah, I agree. I think it should be mandatory.
Okay.
Yeah.
I'm kind of interested, you said this, and when I heard Ms. Barber talk, one of the things that came to mind, I was thinking like, after the 8th graders take the SOL, to me, why would it be impossible to do the introduction or the beginning of this course the last week of school, so that at least, even though they may, but I can tell you something would stick in their mind if you started that process, just like when you become a freshman in college, if that the last, you were on a college track, it would be nice, like the last couple of weeks of your senior year, you did some intro work to understand this is probably what you're going to face at Virginia Tech, right? When you get there, other than just freshman orientation.
Yeah, and we do some orientation stuff in the spring. We've done some summer things in the past, very similar to that as well. And so we've played around with different options there, but we could definitely look at putting it into the actual school year.
Yeah, I think there's some great opportunities there that we can potentially put in place to help facilitate that.
Yeah.
Mr. B, to that point, I think there's also a nice opportunity for a summer bridge for 8th graders.
Yes.
Kind of going into not only that week, but into the summer, and then you show up as a 9th grader, not really as a new student, like you have some of that under your belt. So, and I'm a big fan of trying to replicate this as a senior, just as you said, because we have so many kids that come back to us at the first semester because they made all the mistakes that a lot of us made. But how can we help them with that too? So I think that's something that we need to kind of look at last semester, senior year. So.
Yeah. That's a great point. Thank you, Mr. Miller, on that. Our number 7 here is the old business under the ESSER 3 grant appropriation. Ms. Moorheim?
One final appropriation. This is really nothing new. We've been talking about this for a long time. I'm simply just asking that we appropriate $310,000 of our ESSER 3 funding under the general ledger. Really, this is for instructional salaries for the Summer of More, tuition assistance. We've been talking about our career switcher and teacher in residence programs, and then the extended learning furniture items specifically for Newcomb Elementary School and desks that we ordered for that. So that's our ask tonight. Any questions? Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Moorheim. We're at the number 8 on our agenda, citizen comment period. If someone has signed up to speak, as a reminder, I'd like to thank everyone for coming tonight to speak. Please note that comments are limited to 3 minutes. Once the timer sounds, please promptly finish your comments and return to your seat. It is customary for the school board not to make comments during the citizen comment period. Please make sure your contact information is provided on the sign-up sheet if you would like someone to follow up with you. Thank you again for your comments. No comments. Oh, that was a waste of 2 minutes. I know, you should have said, Wayne! You should have said that. You should have said. If you know the answer, raise your hand. Talk out of turn. It won't be the first time. All right. No. Way to look like an idiot, Wayne. Now to our action items. So our first action item is the consideration for the approval of appointment of fiscal agents. Do I hear a motion to approve the appointment of fiscal agents as presented?
I move that we approve the appointment of fiscal agents as presented.
Do I hear a second?
Second.
Any discussion? There's no discussion. We'll take a vote. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
None opposed. Fiscal agents are approved. Second item to consider is the approval of CIP transfer for New Kent Elementary for A&E services. Do I hear a motion to approve the CIP transfer for New Kent Elementary A&E as presented?
I move we approve the transfer for the elementary A&E services as presented.
Do I hear a second?
Second.
Any discussion? If there's no discussion, then we'll go to a vote. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
The ayes have it. The approval will go through for the CIP transfer for elementary, for New Kent Elementary. The next item to be considered is the approval for the A&E contract. This is different than the transfer. Do I hear a motion to approve the New Kent Elementary A&E contract as presented?
I make a motion that we approve the New Kent Elementary A&E contract as presented.
Do I hear a second?
I second.
Any discussions? If there's no discussion, then we'll vote. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
The ayes have it. We approve the New Kent Elementary A&E contract as presented. The next item for consideration is the approval of federal applications. Do I hear a motion to approve the federal program applications as presented?
I move that we approve the federal programs application as presented.
Do I hear a second?
A second.
Any discussion? If there's no discussion, then we'll vote. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Ayes have it. The approval of the federal applications is passed. Next items, consider the approval of the appropriation of the school security equipment and matching funds. Do I hear a motion to approve the appropriation of school security equipment and matching funds as presented?
I make a motion that we approve the appropriation of school security equipment and matching funds as presented.
Do I hear a second?
I second.
Any discussion? If there's no discussion, then we'll vote. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Ayes have it. The appropriation of school security equipment matching funds passes. Next is a consideration for the approval of a CIP transfer for athletics. Do I hear a motion to approve the CIP transfer for athletics?
I move that we approve the CIP transfer for athletics.
Do I hear a second?
Second.
Any discussion? If there's no discussion, then we'll vote. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
The ayes have it. The CIP transfer for athletics goes through. Approval. Next consideration, the approval of freshman seminar course as presented. Do I hear a motion to approve the freshman seminar course request?
I move we approve the freshman seminar course as presented.
Is there a second?
Second.
Any discussion? If there's no discussion, then we'll vote. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
The ayes have it. This freshman seminar course will be given. The next is consideration for the approval of the appropriation of ESSER 3 funding. Do I hear a motion to approve the appropriation of ESSER 3 funding as presented?
I make a motion that we approve the appropriation of ESSER 3 funding as presented.
Do I hear a second?
Second.
Any discussion? If there's no discussion, then we will vote. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
The ayes have it. The appropriation of ESSER III funding as presented will pass. So now we'll go to board comments. We'll start with Ms. Barber. Ms. Barber?
All right. Well, it was great to hear from Kaya Stokes, our valedictorian. She's a neighbor of mine who I've enjoyed watching grow over the past several years. So I look forward to seeing her successes. And also wanted to comment briefly on the teachers and support staff celebration last Thursday. That was really outstanding, and I think the change of venue was really made a big difference. So look forward to that in the future. Another thing that I wanted to touch on is end of last week there was a Facebook post that caused a lot of concern for folks in the community, and and I've talked to Dr. Nichols a little bit about this, about making some improvements on expediting communications to help the community understand where we are, so that people understand we're aware of something that's been posted out here. We can't monitor every chat room in social media, so that's a little bit of a challenge. But to let people know when we know there's comments out in the community that people are concerned about, and then some steps as to when that is resolved as well. So I look forward to seeing some developments with that.
Thank you, Ms. Barber. Ms. Tasko?
Well, I was going to try to list off all of our teams, our sports that are heading into different championships right now, but I was afraid that I would miss somebody because we have so many. So that's really exciting to watch what our student athletes are working on right now, and the accomplishments that are ahead for all of them. Just really thankful for all the teachers and all of the work that they've been doing for the retirement party, all the things that we're doing. So thank you. That's it for me.
Thank you.
Me?
Sure.
Yeah. A couple things. Like to thank and congratulate all of those who participated in our Team New Kent celebration, recognizing the retirees and service award employees, teachers, and support staff. Thank you for everything you do for our children and our families. Greatly appreciate that. Also look forward to the Summer of More, always very exciting. I look forward to visiting that this summer. And one thing I did have an opportunity to participate in early May with Ms. Staskell. We were able to participate in a panel discussion with our seniors with a DE government class. Very impressed by our students and their knowledge, the questions they asked, and really enjoyed being able to engage with them. And I know everybody's looking forward to the end of school shortly, so enjoy your several weeks off. So, thank you.
Swinford?
Thank you, Mr. Mead. I'd also like to just reflect on a good year that it's been. We started in September opening up our new elementary school, Quinton Elementary School, so that's been a huge accomplishment that we continue to reap benefits from. And we managed to get through the school year without any snow days, which is amazing. So we can end a little bit earlier next week. I'm just excited to be on the stage Friday with our graduating class, our seniors. It's always exciting. Each year is different. The energy is different every year. It's just exciting to see the accomplishment of all those seniors, and I mean every single one. So I'm really looking forward to Friday and to finishing up the school year. So thank you.
Dr. Nichols?
Thank you, Mr. Mead. I want to echo the comments about our Team New Kent night celebration. That was we just wanted to try something different and really do something special to people that are incredibly special to us. So I just want to thank our human resources team again for pulling that together, and Rosie's for being such great partners. As I close out year 4 as New Kent superintendent, I'm still just as humbled and honored, definitely older, to take on year 5. I mean, just this is our first year, my first year in New Kent that is not directly pandemic connected. So even last year, very much connected. You're starting to see that in our data. So we have a really good story to show on all fronts, whether it's the athletic front, the arts, classroom, you name it. We have great people in a strong community, and that just yields results. And sometimes people want to take a shot at different pieces, like we're not perfect. Never going to be perfect. We'll continue to fight, and we'll continue to move forward, and we'll continue to make things better, whether it's about communication or it's about anything else. We're never going to stand here and go, we have it all solved. I do want to say thank you to the team I get to work with every day, and just all of Team New Kent and the staff. We have done a tremendous job moving the school division forward. We don't really pay attention to all the things we've done. We do a nice little compilation at the end of the year, and we're a little shocked at everything we've accomplished, because as soon as we finish this meeting tonight, we're going to work, because we still have 6 more teaching positions to fill, and all of these things. We're on to the next thing. But board members, as I read across the Commonwealth, I'm just so thankful I get to work with you and the team that you are, and how you push us to be better. So I want to thank you for your leadership this year, and I'm so excited to be on stage Friday night and seeing all those kids go into wonderful, incredible adventures. So thank you, Mr. Mead.
Yeah, thank you, Dr. Nichols, for all your hard work and your staff, and I have to echo that absolutely. We had the privilege of attending Bridging Communities last week, and their graduation and their certifications. And it has been a pleasure to serve on that board for Bridging Communities, and just to see the growth in that particular program. And if I'm not mistaken, Dr. Nichols, you can correct me, is that in the first time of the history of the program, we have actually more applications for positions than we actually have positions available. So it goes to show you the need for growing hands-on education, vocational processes that we can help facilitate in the future with our community and with our community partners all around. And so it was a joy to watch all of those young men and women go across that stage for all of their hard works. And again, I am grateful for the opportunity to serve with this board. And I will say this very humbly, but very seriously, back to Ms. Barber's question about the posts that are put on, is that it is very, very challenging when people put things out there, and it's very hard to defend things sometimes when you don't have all the information that's available. And it's very difficult as a board and as a superintendent to comment on things when you know you're not allowed to. Because when you see things as a board, and I know as an administration, your blood boils when you see certain things, and you know that you have to temper your feelings. But in certain things, I will say this, and Dr. Nichols, that they worked diligently after some posts, and they hunted a person down and found them and took it to the authorities ASAP because of the nature of some of the comments. And so I want to, as we get better in communicating and letting people know what's going on in our school system and in our division-wide, goals are to be transparent. Every opportunity we have to be transparent. And so thank you, board, and thank you, Dr. Nichols, for caring about our community and caring about our students and our faculty. But again, thank you so much for everyone who attended this evening. We look forward to Friday night. What an incredible time to celebrate a new season in so many people's lives and for parents. And so it's a great time to do that, and we look forward to that on Friday. So with that, we will adjourn this meeting this evening at 6:47 p.m. Our next school board session scheduled for Monday, July 31st, 2023.
So there's no work session this week?